The following podcast has not been sanctioned by the New World Order.
New World Order.
What's going on, everybody? We are honored with the presence of an absolute legend today.
Yes, we are. This is my good friend, Mr. Neal Pruitt.
For everyone out there who doesn't know the name Neal Pruitt, or if that does not ring a bell for you, I think me and him don't do it justice. So I think we're going to pass it off to Mr. Pruitt, and why don't you tell the people who you are, good sir?
The following podcast has not been sanctioned by the New World Order.
Oh, that was epic.
How's that?
That was beautiful.
I think that summed it up right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, want to welcome everybody a conversation with the voice of the NWO.
New World Order.
That's amazing. And Neal, of course, was the voice of the New World Order back during the WCW version of the New World Order.
That's right. We had a good time doing that for sure.
Oh, yeah. And you were, of course, the producer for most, if not all, of those NWO vignettes and promos, right?
Yeah, I initially got the look together with a fellow video producer named Kemper Rogers, who was a senior editor with WCW at the time. We didn't do every one of the videos, but we got the look together and started that whole thing and did the third man and handed Scott Hall the camera and said, hey, videotape each other, because I thought that was the cool part of it, that we have all these lights and a lot of production value, and we never get to see it on any other kind of interviews. So I said, hey, take the camera and shoot each other. And I thought that was probably one of the most innovative parts of the whole thing.
All right, so, man, first and foremost, I want to say, dude, I'm a big fan. I've known Smokey for 48,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's as old as Yoda.
Oh, yeah. We go back to the time of Xenu.
Oh, yeah. And what's crazy is I have always been a wrestling fanatic. And I want to say WCW started it all for me. Then I went to, for some reason, ECW, and then I went to WWF, and of course that eventually evolved into WWE. Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind, man, I'd just like to ask you a few questions just from a fanboy standpoint, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
All right. First question is, did you have anything to do with the Sting, Crowe, NWO era? Did you have anything to do with that?
No, I didn't. And as a matter of fact, Sting asked me about that whole thing, and I thought it was a really bad idea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I thought it was a total ripoff, and I thought we would get, maybe sued because it was such a close, ripoff of the Crowe.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you sure we're going to try this? I mean, isn't there a copyright rule or something? Because he looked just like him,
Identical.
Did a great job at
Yeah.
it. But
Oh, yeah.
I guess they can't, I don't know, maybe they can't copyright makeup. I mean, I guess there are some Alice Cooper copiers out there, at one point in time.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you guys also, and speaking of WCW, you guys also had a part in the whole Kiss thing also, right?
Well, but that was a whole contractual deal that Dale Torborg made with his friends who were Kiss. And it was pretty cool. As a matter of fact, you should talk about that. It was really fun to go backstage and meet those guys. But I'll tell you, Paul Stanley is an awesome guy. The guy with the star on his eye, yeah. He's really cool. He was the one that was talking to us the most and just telling us how much he appreciated the Kiss Army. And they wouldn't be anywhere without the fans. And he's just a real down-to-earth guy. And I believe they're from they're from Detroit, I believe.
Yeah, yes, Detroit City Rock.
Yeah, that's
Rock
not too
City,
far
yeah.
from where I went to college. I went to college at Bowling Green State University, which is just south of Detroit and Toledo. So I was not too far from
Yeah, you're right there on the border.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. But like I said, Paul Stanley was great. Gene was kind of doing nothing over there in the corner, and the other guys were just kind of hanging out, But Paul Stanley was a super promoter. One of the funny things he says is, "Hey, do you know why we wear these wrestling belts?"
Why is that?
I said no. He said, Well, what we do is we start real high at the beginning of the concert series because, we're a little bit overweight. So as we progressively lose weight, we drop them down a little lower and lower.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if I've ever said that on the air before, so that's pretty funny.
Oh, wow. It's an exclusive right here.
Exactly. There you go, guys. That's an exclusive from the man himself.
There you go. That wasn't even on Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro. I don't think it's even been on there.
Great plug, by the way. That's a great podcast, by the way, Neal.
Well, thanks,
I love
man.
it.
I'll tell you what, it's not just me, that's for sure, because Guy Evans and from New York City, who wrote Nitro, The Incredible Rise and Inevitable Collapse of Ted Turner's WCW, which happens to have a audio version now. He does the podcast with me from New York and just does such a terrific job asking questions of me and asking questions of the fans and keep me on track, because that's not always so easy. As you know, Smokey, I tend to rabbit trail sometimes. And probably well in this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Something else I wanted to ask you. I guess this is a two-part question. The first part of the question is, were you a fan of wrestling growing up? And if you were a fan of wrestling, who were some of your favorite wrestlers growing up?
Great question. And not really.
What?
Yeah. The weird part about it is I guess my great-grandma really loved wrestling. Well, my mom, she didn't ever want us to watch it because I'm the middle of three boys. So there was enough aggression in the house and enough fights without watching wrestling every week to kind of emulate those guys. And there was actually some neighbors down the street. They had four boys, and they watched wrestling religiously. And one of them jumped off the top stairs and went down about 4 steps and tried to do the old elbow drop on his younger brother, and broke his arm. So that wasn't so good. And also we used to look at those magazines at their house sometimes, and I asked my mom about it. She said, no, that's fake. That's not real blood. And I've come to find out it was. But I never really was a fan. Never even really watched it a whole lot until I got to college. And when I was a Bully Man, Randy Savage, Mary Miss Elizabeth, and Hogan, and I liked Piper's Pit. But I used to get mad when it came on, actually. That's kind of funny, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
When Saturday Night Live was interrupted by wrestling, I used to really hate that.
Well, for people out there who don't know, what is Piper's Pit? Because I'm clueless.
Piper.
I know Roddy Piper, but what's Piper's Pit? Is that a thing? Or?
Yeah, that was a segment he used to do in WWE or WWF at the time.
Really?
Yeah. You remember how Jericho would have the highlight reel and things like that?
Right.
The Miz would have his show.
Right.
Piper had his own show. He was actually the first one to do his own segments in wrestling.
It was always a pretty good segment. I mean, there's always some kind of heat, And I like the pageantry of it all. I thought that was hilarious. I mean, I never really, like I said, thought wrestling was real because I had 2 brothers. And when we got in fights, a couple punches to the nose and you were done. I mean, and plus, you're not going to just stand there and let them do it to you. I mean, and this is stuff I wouldn't normally talk about, but since the cat's all out of the bag on everything and how it's all done, I would have never said anything like this back when I first started in the business. But since everybody else kind of does it now, and kind of unfortunately does it to their own profession, I feel as if I'm okay doing it.
Yeah, definitely kayfabe does not hold the weight that it would have back in the 90s and previous. Mm-hmm. But speaking of Roddy Piper, I want to hear this story about Roddy Piper and Alcatraz, if you will, Neal.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, we do big event opens when we can. And the pay-per-view open for Super Brawl in San Francisco was Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan. And Roddy wanted to do a deal where he was in Alcatraz and he was training for the big match. And we wanted to do a series of videos there. The first being one that was of Roddy in the cell training, getting ready for Hulk Hogan, that aired on Monday Nitro. So we did all that, but the way we got to doing the open and everything like that was very unusual. So if you've ever been to Alcatraz, they only let boats on there or dock on there are the boats that are from the service that takes you from San Francisco over to the island. And they hold like a couple hundred people. So that's the only way we were able to do that as well. We had to rent one for $1,000 an hour.
Wow.
And there was only probably 5 of us on the boat. There was the captain, Piper, myself, Bill Tinsley, the camera guy, and Mike Filosa, the audio guy, and I think another assistant. And we had to actually shoot the whole thing backwards, which was definitely different from what we used to have to do, is because we weren't allowed to do anything on the island until every one of the guests got on the boats and was headed back to San Francisco. So we actually shot the last shot first. So the shot you see in the pay-per-view open, the very last shot you see is actually the first one we shot, which was...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, Piper hanging off the mast, and we kind of got in big trouble for that whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There was something in there where Roddy got in trouble for doing that, huh?
Yeah, so the whole idea was to have Roddy on the boat hanging onto the mast with seeing San Francisco in the background, so we positioned the boat that way. But I don't believe the captain knew what we were going to do. So so Roddy gets up on that mast, and, you know, the kilt's flapping in the wind, and you know, he's just got that crazy intense look on his face, and he's, you know, flipping and flopping around it like a stripper pole. And we see San Francisco perfectly in the background, and he goes off of his rampage and talking about how he's going to whip Hogan and everything. And all of a sudden, as soon as we stopped and cut camera, the captain comes flying out of his captain's lair and just freaks out on us. He's like, "What in the hell are you doing? Do you have any idea how old these boats are? That thing gets, that metal pipe gets seawater on it all the time, and we're exposed to these bad elements. That thing rusts like crazy. If he falls down in that water," he goes, "look down in that water. Look at how fast it's moving." And sure enough, there's a serious current out there that goes the wrong direction away from San Francisco. That's why they don't think everybody ever escaped. And on top of that, it's like 50 or 60 degrees, and they said within 10, 15 minutes you could be dead.
Oh yeah, hypothermia.
Yeah, so he was damn serious about that, and he was so mad at us. He just wanted to string us up. Well, so we're kind of gathering, going, okay, shoot, thank God we got that done. You know, we're on to the next shot, safe on land. Well, then Piper comes over to me and goes, "Yeah, I don't think I got that one." I was like,
What was Roddy?
Say what?
What was Roddy?
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I think it'd probably be best to finish this part. He goes,
What was Roddy Piper? What was he like as a person? I'm sure you actually got to hang out with him. I don't know, maybe have a few beers with him. What was he like as a person?
I'll tell you what. Let's rearrange that. Let me finish this part, because I think it's really important to finish it right past that statement I made about that he had to do a second take. Because what happened is obviously when he wants to do a second take, I'm like, "Oh, really?" So now I got to go knock on the captain's door and say, "Hey, you know that dangerous thing where he could have died and what he did? We need to do another take."
No.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, sometimes you just don't want to be in the producer position," and that was one of them. But he was so gracious, and here's what we did. I said, "Okay, I obviously understand the importance of it. I got your message when you came out the first time." I said, "So, Bill, make sure the camera's rolling." I said, "Mike, the audio's on, right?" "Yeah, no problem." So we're rolling. I said, "Piper, it's a legal deal here." I said, "Are you willing to take a chance of risking death to get this second take right for this pay-per-view open?" And I said, "I have to do this for legal purposes." And he said, "Yeah." So we kept on doing and did the second tape, and he nailed it the second time.
Why did you have to do it for legal purposes? What was the legality behind it?
Well, I feel as if I'm responsible for the people that are in my videos. I mean, I have to ensure their safety, and I don't want them to do anything that would bring harm to themselves, even though it's wrestling. I got to know that whatever we can do to keep them safe is happening. And I've struggled with that a few times in different shoots that I've had. But in this case, obviously, it could have been for real life or death. The captain said, you can't turn this boat around on a dime. We'd be lucky. We'd be lucky maybe to throw you a life ring, one of those floaties. But that's it.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee that we're going to be able to snatch you out of the water in no time. I mean, you could have some serious damage. And he was serious, dude. I mean, I look in his eye, he was so mad. So when you go and you hear stuff like that, you're like, oh man, I don't want to, make this guy mad at me because he had already kind of cussed us out before. So it's one of those situations where, he did in fact put his life in his own hands, and I just want to make sure we had that on tape. So if you saw the raw footage, it goes right from that statement right to the take, and
wow,
I made sure we kept it on file.
Yeah,
man, that just sounds like Piper to the T, doesn't it?
Yeah, he seemed like a fearless guy. Just from knowing him through the TV screen, that Piper just seemed really fearless.
Yeah, and I know people, when they see him come out in the kilt, that's, in American culture, we don't really see it as a kilt,
Yeah.
So you have to have a set on you to come out and be like, hey, I'm that guy,
That is so
I'm
true.
sure he caught some flack for that back in the old days.
Oh yeah.
He was really intense for real when he wanted to do this character, because I remember at the very last shot, and if you need me to, I can go through the shots on how he did them to Alcatraz, but
Sure.
one of the weird things was, what I like to do is, if I'm going to do a video, and especially if I have time, which oftentimes I never did, but if I had time to prepare, I like to call up people and make sure everything's fine and make sure everything's going good. And this is a pretty serious thing because we had a lot of money tied up. We even had a guy come from LA to bring a light that was charged by a car battery, because in that part of Alcatraz, in the cells where we shot, nobody ever gets to go to. And there's very minimal electricity there, so we knew that we had to bring our own light just to get enough light to really shoot that. And if you saw the open, it takes about probably 38 different sounds to make it sound like that door was going to open. You know how the cell doors open, you always hear it in the movies. Well, these were broken, so we had to act like these were, working doors. So I told Piper, I said, look, when you go to open the doors to come out, I said, make sure that cell door jams on you. Like, you attempt to go out, it's like a false finish almost, and then it finally flings open. So he did exactly as I asked him. And he first did, though, the video of him for Monday Nitro, which was him pretty much going crazy and talking in the toilet to Hogan, which was funny. I remember that part was hilarious. So we actually did that. That was probably the third or fourth shot. So as I mentioned, the first shot we did was the last shot, which was him going towards San Francisco on the boat. And then once we got on the island, we went and put him at the top of the stairs, and his legs weren't doing real well, and the guy's just beat up. And I didn't want him to run stairs too much, but I kind of had to do 2 takes with it, because the night before, as I mentioned, I like to try to make sure everything's fine. Well, I called up Alcatraz, the people we're supposed to contact, and I said, well, so is everybody ready to be in this video? Y'all excited about doing this whole thing? And the guy on the other end goes, oh, darn, yeah, I forgot there's something I needed to tell you. We're not going to be able to make it. We have a wedding to go to. I'm like, oh, boy. So now we don't have any actors that look official in their uniforms, which I was counting on, and you can often count on that. If you have a police force that's willing to work with you, you can already have actors with the uniforms you need, and we often would do that, and obviously it looked authentic because it is, because those people have the real uniforms.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Like, oh, man. So I told that to my friend Jason Douglas. I said, look, dude, I said, we don't have anybody in this video. They just said that they're up and got to go to the wedding or something. So then I said, well, is there anybody else going to be on the island at all? They said, well, there's some kids that are in college, and they help us out and are part of our internship. I said, well, do you think they'd be willing to be in it? And they said, yeah. So I said, oh, thank God. So Jason and I kind of scoured the area to see if we could buy some kind of Alcatraz shirts over on San Francisco, and did find some, but they look like prison inmate shirts, but that's okay.
No way.
So at least we had that and some hats and stuff like that and put on them. But I said, look, no matter what Piper does to you, when he runs by you, do not look at him, because I can't see your face. I can't see a pimply-faced kid, trying to guard a prisoner like Piper, who's a nut. So we had to do 2 takes of the coming down the stairs bit. And then we started to lose light pretty quickly, which was really scary, because obviously, we need to have some kind of light to get a great image. And there's a famous shot that's in every Alcatraz movie, which is running across the yard. The yard is the place where they have their recreation. And we had to get that shot, and it was really getting dark by then. And thank God Piper just kind of, running across there. We had to pump it up in post to make it a little brighter. But it turned out okay, and nobody ever really questioned it, which I was thankful for. But the thing I was most worried about was once we got inside, then we're home free now. We got lights and stuff like that. But we were able to do the segments, not a problem there. But one thing I wanted to do is, since we didn't have much light in there anyway, we only were able to use like 2. And then I brought that searchlight from LA with this guy, and we actually had a searchlight that was panning across the cells. And that wouldn't happen during the day, because we just saw him outside during the day, but nobody ever questioned that either. So I was thankful for that. But I just felt it needed a little ambiance, inside to make it look like a prison.
So Piper was pretty much, he was okay with doing all these different takes and doing these different stunts. He didn't have a problem with it, huh?
No, man, he just wanted to get it right. He had some guy that was kind of a writer guy, a friend of his, and I think, as a matter of fact, he spoke with an Irish accent of some sort. Nice guy. He is pretty well built too. I think he was a wrestler and did some stuff. I don't know, kind of a Piper's companion or whatever. I don't remember his name, but I remember Piper going over about probably 3 or 4 pages of handwritten notes. They were on a big legal pad, and just studying his lines, preparing, and just like an actor would, and he was very well prepared. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. And I talked with Bill, the cameraman, and Mike, the audio guy. And Mike's great. He's done a lot of film stuff and does great work still today. Bill Tinsley's actually retired in Texas, but I obviously couldn't put a wireless microphone on Piper because he's going to be all over the place throwing stuff around, and it would look so hokey to have him wearing a microphone if something went wrong and you exposed the microphone. So I had to make sure the dance between the camera and the audio person were cohesive, because obviously you want to get good audio. And thank God he was yelling quite a bit, so we got it anyway. But if just in case he'd whisper, we wanted to have the microphone in the right place. So Bill and Mike kind of worked it out. I wanted to show like Bill going along the bars to make it, look like it's a jail cell, and kind of like we're an observer, the point of view from somebody outside the cell. And Bill always did a great job on moving the camera just at the right time. And Piper kind of knew that, he was going to be talking to us as a person almost. So that worked out really well, and I thought it turned out great.
Yeah. I've heard stories, from people in the business that, Piper was the kind of guy to, when the cameras were on, he's full character. He's Piper at heart. You can't tell him anything. But once those lights, the action, and the cameras dimmed down, he was one of the most humble, nicest, charismatic, loving people you will ever meet. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. He just really wanted to be part of the team and wanted to make sure we got what we needed. And what's very interesting is when we were packing up the equipment ready to go, I saw Piper in the corner. He had his leather jacket on again, but he was down on his knees, and he had this Ziploc baggie, and he shoveled some of the Alcatraz dust and dirt into that baggie.
No.
Yeah.
He took it with him?
Yeah.
No
I thought
way.
that was really wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right out of that cell, man. So he had the
Oh,
real deal
wow.
with him. I don't know what he did with it exactly, but I'd be interested to, had I seen him again later, I'd like to ask him.
Oh wow. So, dude, just to get off of Piper, wonderful story, by the way, man.
Thank
I'm sure there's a million things we could discuss. So I may be kind of ignorant to this, but were you responsible for any of the NWO or WCW theme music, or was it just the voice of the New World Order?
I thought that's a good question. I thought that was pretty funny when I heard on Eric's podcast.
And did you know Eric Bischoff?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
What?
Yeah,
What was
of
he like?
course.
Yeah, so the NWO music, I was surprised that Eric didn't remember how the music came about. We were in Disney, and we were at Disney Post Productions. We took over the whole place. Because in 1996, the Olympics came to Atlanta, so they were afraid we weren't going to get any of our shows done because the traffic was going to be so horrendous. So they shipped us all down to Disney, and we actually took over Ramada down there on Canada Avenue. We took over the whole facility. They gave us basically a 2-bedroom apartment, everybody, and we lived there for like a month, and it was a riot. You shouldn't have that much fun and get paid. I mean, it was like casino night this night, country western night this night. I mean, it was like every night was a party down there. And it was just only the boys and the production people. That was it. So nobody else was allowed on there. But we had a good time, but that's another time. But so being down there at Disney, we started the NWO, and Rob Wright is a senior editor for us for a while. And for many years, he actually used to work with WWE with Craig Leathers. They both worked together in Baltimore and did some shows. I don't remember which ones, but then both of them came down to Atlanta to work with WCW. And Rob and some lady who we can't find, by the way, she was the person in charge of making the NWO logo and did a great job, obviously, and sold millions of T-shirts off of that. So she should be very proud of herself if we ever find her. We'd like to talk to her. And then the NWO music, we had 3 different picked out. There was a gentleman, I think his name was Tim Smith or Tim Scott. He was an editor for us down in Florida, and he was kind of assigned to working with me. And we picked out 3 songs, and the actual song that NWO came out to was called FCD 115 track 14.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, which is
Very generic.
So everybody loved it, but
Yeah.
It's iconic now.
oh yeah, yeah it is.
Oh yeah.
And the funny thing about it is it wasn't composed specifically for them. It just happened to be.
Was it really?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't at all.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, it was just a general cut in a library called FCD. I forget what FCD, but anyway, every one of our music cuts that we had that aired on TV, we had to keep track of every single one of them. So sometimes some of the promos that Kemper and I would work on, they'd have like 5 or 6 different music cuts in them. And at the beginning, you could read on the slate the music cut, FCD 115 track 14, 1 minute 13 seconds, MOS, blah blah blah. You know, it's so we had to really keep track of it.
So, something I'm curious to know is you guys get a CD with all these different songs on there that potentially could be used for, would you say, the biggest wrestling group at the time? Would you say that, Smokey?
The NWO?
Yeah.
For sure.
So you get a CD with all of these different songs on there. Who was the determining factor as to, okay, this is the song we're going to use. This is the guy we're going to use to say New World Order. Who was the final decision?
We had Eric come in, and he and Craig Leathers, they came in to listen to those songs. And we had already thought that it was probably going to be the FCD 115 track 14. We just happened to like that anyway, but they actually listened to it, and there was only a few of us in the room, and Derek said, yeah, that's the one. And we said, yeah, we like that one too.
Would you have loved to have been in that room right now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it wasn't as dramatic as you might think. It was just kind of everyday, kind of okay, that's the one we want. It wasn't any big deal, which was kind of funny when you worked with Eric. He lets you do what you do, which is awesome. I mean, he doesn't micromanage you. They just let us do what we wanted to do. And I talked to Craig Leathers about, he was my boss at the time, and he went on to direct different things, and he was really instrumental in a lot of the shows and the whole Hogan turn and all that. And he was in charge of production at the time. And I said, look, Craig, here's the deal. I said, we can't have any one of our announcers be the announcer for this NWO thing, because if we're acting like it's another company altogether, we can't have just anybody that we've already heard on the air. We have to have somebody else.
Right.
He goes, well, what do you want it to sound like? I said, well, there's this guy on 99X in Atlanta. I really like his voice. It's kind of...
What? You just brought back memories. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of so different. His name's something Eubanks, his name. He's unfortunately passed away since. But Craig goes, well, what does it sound like? I said, it sounds like kind of really raspy, like New World Order. Kind of like that.
God, that is epic.
And he goes, really? He goes, why don't you do it? I said, okay. So that's...
Cut the check.
That's how the
I'll get
conversation
right
goes.
on it.
Well, it made it easy because when you have voiceovers and the way we operated, things were done at the last second so often. It was just so easy for me to do it because I was right there and I knew what I needed to say and how I needed to act about it. And it worked out. And we did a lot of those designing of the flyers that came out of the sky too, those where we littered the whole place.
Yeah.
We designed all those as well. So it's because we had access to the graphics, and it was just something we knew we needed, and we got it done. And it really made it to where we could do things at the last second with no problem. Because voiceover people, sometimes they got to be scheduled,
Oh, yeah. Did you have a hand in actually making the NWO logo?
No, I didn't. That was Rob Wright, the senior editor, did that.
Yeah. Man.
So no, I did get to write all the entrances for the NWO Sold Out. Loser.
Wow.
And do all that.
Wow. Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up. That brings me into a segue here. If you don't mind, can I ask you a slightly personal question? Not too intrusive, but kind of personal.
Loser. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, being a trash talker here, you were a part of one of the most iconic wrestling entrance music, theme musics of all time, and then the Losers and the New World Orders and the NWO, all that. I remember all that. Do you still get royalties from that today? Like, if someone in WWE or ECW or TNA or anything like that, if they happen to use that, do you still get royalties?
Okay, it's time to bring some tears to your eyes.
Oh, Lord.
I've never gotten paid a single dime.
No. Oh, my God.
Loser.
No.
What?
The two Michigan dog-faced mutts, the Steiner brothers.
And this is why the WCW did not last, everyone.
Let's see. You should have stayed in junior league hockey.
Dude, we had to get him to do some voiceover.
That was
trash talkers.
That was for Chris Jericho.
drops.
Chris Jericho.
Uh-huh.
Dang. I will say you haven't lost the voice at all, man. You definitely are still on par with everything.
I appreciate it.
Smokey's over here. He's over here dying to ask you a question.
Yeah, I think for the sake of time, we'll get into one more story and then we can wrap it up. But I don't want to keep you too long, Neal.
Appreciate it.
But just tell me about you brought up the Steiners there, and just maybe a quick story about the whole inception of the NWO vignettes that you guys were shooting, because that was something that had never been done in wrestling before at that time. And of course, they went on to become iconic, and they are still played today across wrestling networks and WWE Network and all that. But
right.
how exactly did you guys come up with that particular style of shooting those vignettes?
I love that question because it lets me put myself over. No, by the way, I love the Steiner brothers. They're a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And they've
Who
always
do you
been
love more,
best.
Rick or Scott?
Oh, they're both cool, man. They're unfortunately they're from Michigan, which makes it kind of difficult
yeah.
because I'm from Ohio. But that's kind of our
Yeah.
shtick. You know, we
Gotcha.
had
I'm
to
sorry, I
have
didn't
fun.
mean to interrupt Smokey's question.
No, you're good.
No problem. So who made up the NWO look? Fortunately, they just let us go crazy. And they said the more wild you want to make it, the better off. And the dilemma was, when you're producing these segments, who's going to talk the most? Or are we going to try to spread everything out and make it even? So I think, to be fair, you got to let everybody have their piece and everybody talk. And we knew that with those three egos, you're going to have a difficult time because people are going to try to dominate the mic. Well, we were able to control that because of the editing style we used and the way we directed it. I would oftentimes have to have them tie certain things together. So I think there was probably 4 cameras running. And the clapper that you see, you know, like the Hollywood clapper, we actually, in fact, used that. That wasn't just a prop. We did that to sync up the cameras because we're using a VHS-C camera, which I still have somewhere around here. It's a Panasonic camera that I gave to Scott Hall. He ran it most of the time.
Oh my God, there's so much. Go ahead.
And we had to have continuous record on that. But then we'd stop down every now and then because I would have to say, okay, remember when Hogan said this? Okay, Big Sexy, I need you to say this to transition to what Scott said over here. So, as a producer, I really had to pay attention to what they were saying and try to formulate a storyboard in my head as they were talking to get the point across. Because so many times you have great statements, but you got to have these other statements to tie those together. It'll never work. So that's the most crucial part of it all, really. But all that camera cutting and everything, I was like, okay, we don't really have a lot of money because it's a startup company. So we're going to get people who really don't know what they're doing running the equipment. And we want it to look like that, to where all those crazy cuts back and forth, pop, pop, pop. I mean, not only did it enable us to pace it like we wanted it, but it also gave us the ability to highlight people we wanted to win and where. And also it gave us the ability to, like I said before, give everybody a little bit of equal footing as far as who was on camera at the time.
Right.
So there's many advantages of doing it like that.
With the NWO, did you have anything to do with those 3 letters? And the reason I ask is because nowadays those 3 letters are very controversial. You hear NWO, people think New World Order, not necessarily, you know, wrestling entertainment. Yeah. So I'm wondering why those 3 letters. I mean, what made you guys pick NWO when it's associated with something so much more bigger than wrestling entertainment?
I think that Kevin Sullivan may have been reading the Bible at the time or something, because I think that's where the New World Order came out of, and my favorite book, by the way. But I do remember at some point, and I don't know when this was, but I know one of the Bushes said something about the New World Order, and I know that that's kind of where it stemmed from. And, you know, I kind of had my negative thoughts about that whole thing. You know? And also, one thing that was really weird for me was the videos that we did pretty much made fun of people and did it often. And I became really good at that. And that's not who I am at all, Smokey. I'm not really that type of person. I'm trying to be a person that brings people up and encourages people. And that was kind of difficult to get good at that, really. But it's a struggle, you know, because it's something that really caught on, and it was really made you kind of somewhat famous, I guess you might say. but yet
Oh, yeah.
kind of tugged against your heartstrings a little bit. That's not who I really am, but that's part of me.
Even
Well,
go ahead.
all in the name of suspension of disbelief in kayfabe. So I don't think you should beat yourself too much about it, Neil. But,
Yeah, I've come to a good point with it all,
Right.
and hopefully I can talk to and make it a open forum to talk to anybody, about
I will
something
say
that I
this,
think they
though.
should be doing.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. But I will say this: you guys inspired many hip hop music videos
Man.
from that point on.
So many. So
I'm not
many.
sure. I'm
Because
not sure that's a good thing.
That style of shooting has been replicated over and over again since.
You know why,
Yeah.
Smokey?
Not only.
I'll tell you exactly why I say that. Because rap is crap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what the
Eric
Curt Hennig-
Bischoff used to say that, didn't he?
No, it
Well,
was
no,
Curt Hennig
we did
and,
that.
Barry Windham.
He'd come out and be like, "Rap is crap."
One of
or
the
something.
funnest videos I ever did in my lifetime was working with Curt Hennig and the West Texas Rednecks. Man, that was a riot.
Yeah.
That was a good
What?
time there,
Oh
buddy.
yeah. And the war with the Master P's
Yeah,
army.
yeah.
Man, that was good
Wow.
stuff. We were in Nashville and down on
Uh-huh.
one of Barry's ex-wife's or girlfriend's farms, and Curt Hennig wrecked the four-wheeler, and we left it in the video. It was nutty. Good times right there, buddy.
Yeah, I bet.
For sure.
Wow. Curt Hennig was probably a really interesting guy.
He
We
was-
can get into some stories in a future date if you want to come back at any time,
Yeah,
Neil.
he
Yeah.
was awesome. I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Before anything else you want to ask him before we get
I
off?
think that's it for me right now.
Yeah, we didn't want to keep you too long, but before we get off, I just want to ask you 3 off the top, quick random fire trash talker questions, if you're okay with that.
Go ahead.
All right. First question: hamburgers or pizzas?
Darn. That's a tough one there.
That's a tough one, right?
If it's just hamburger, then no cheese on it, I'll say pizza.
Okay, pizza. All right. If you're stuck on an island for a month and you could take 3 things, what 3 things are you taking with you?
A supply of fresh water.
Mm-hmm.
A tarp. And probably a guitar.
Oh, nice.
And finally, the last and final question: did you have fun speaking with the trash talkers today, Neil?
Good time, not too much trash, which was kind of fun. And I can't remember my other lines that I said when NWO guys came down and NWO sold out, but that was really fun making those up. I can tell you that was serious trash talking. Loser.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you invented the word loser. That's awesome.
At least in that style, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With that being said, Neil, anything else you want to add to the people out there, man?
Plugs.
Hey, I just hope you guys continue to do what you do and have fun doing it. And I wish you'd all take a listen to Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro. It's on Facebook, and it's actually on iTunes and iHeartRadio. And if you could pick up the book Nitro, The Incredible Rise and Inevitable Collapse of Ted Turner's WCW. And it's an audio version now, and that's on Amazon as well. Help out Guy Evans, who is my co-host of Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro in New World Order voice.
Sweet.
Awesome. With that being said, guys, want to thank y'all so much for checking out this wonderful interview with the legend, the man, the myth, Neal Pruitt.
Don't know about all
My
that.
name. Yeah. With that being said, we're going to close it out here, guys. My name is Behringer Hollywood 6 Bonds.
I am Larry Smokey Ramirez Cowan.